to you. Good morning, good morning to you. Good morning, good morning. Won't you share with a friend or two? Good morning to you. You. Good morning to you. And many more, and many more, and many more. Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome, welcome, welcome to Daring Dialogues. I'm your host today, Shantae Charles. I want to thank you, first of all, for your time and for your attention. Today is Season 16, Episode 50. We are at the end of our Season 16, and I wanted to, number one, share with you the conference I was able to attend because of listener support this past weekend. And I also wanted to um, share with you and give an overview of the books that we've been using this season so that if you're interested in the books, if you want to purchase the books as we are going into season 17 come November, we will be starting back up the first Monday in November. So, to those of you who celebrate All Saints, we wish you a happy All Saints celebration. I believe that's on November 1st. Some states celebrate emancipation and freedom on that date. So we also wish you who are celebrating in several states happy emancipation of your state. But I wanted today to just, first of all, share the books that we've been reading this season, let you know what books are also going to be introduced into season 17. I want to also share with you some takeaways from the conference and some of the books that the presenters wrote. And so I want to get those to you. But let me grab my notes on the conference so that I am talking directly from what was stated. So give me one moment. All right. So again, this is the last episode of season 16. Season 17 will begin. We will resume with our new season the first Monday in November. So let's start out by sharing with you the books that we've been reading this season so that, again, if you're interested in picking up any of these books to begin them or to read along with us, you will have an idea of the books that we've been reading. All right. On Mondays, we usually have been reading from Meditations for Black Women, 75 Mindful Reflections to help you stay grounded and find inner peace. We are nearing the end of reading this, and so we will be adding in this new one entitled Black People Breathe, a mindfulness guide to racial healing. Very colorful, um, lots of topics in here concerning racial healing, racial justice, racial reconciliation, all those kind of topics, and then some exercises to help you move physically through your day. So I found this to be very helpful. So we are adding it to our Mondays. Also on Mondays, we have been reading from the inspirational biography, autobiographical work, but slightly spiritual work from Tina Turner entitled Happiness Becomes You, a guide to changing your life for good. Tina Turner was very super insightful, and so we are looking to complete this book at the top of season 17 on Mondays. So if you want to hang out with us on Mondays, these are the books that we will be reading from. Again, Meditations for Black Women, Black People Breathe, and Happiness Becomes You. On Tuesdays we began season 16 reading from Rock My Soul by Bell Hooks. We are still, I would say we're about halfway through this, but I have added on to Tuesdays. Black AF History, The Unwhitewashed Story of America by Michael Harriot. So we are going to be hopping back and forth between these two works. I think we are still in need of this book to finish it because of some of the things that I see happening with Black people, namely Black America, around anti-Blackness, around self-hatred, around, that whole self-hatred piece. We gotta jump back into Rock My Soul and Black AF History. Also, we're gonna intersperse in to our Tuesdays and Thursdays, The Conjuring of America. Oh yeah, Mojo's Mermaids Medicine in 400 Years of Black Women's Magic, dealing with spirituality, dealing with hoodoo, dealing with medicine women and their histories and the histories behind it. So that's going to be interspersed in between our Tuesdays and our Thursdays. So you want to know what we're reading on Tuesdays, this is what we'll be reading. Okay. You can screenshot these. I'll hold them up long enough for you to screenshot. And I know you're like, why are y'all reading all these books? Because books need to be read. Have you checked out the United States of America's literacy rate? Why do you read out loud? The United States of America's literacy rate. Why do you discuss books? The United States of America's literacy rates. Go check them out and then come back and tell me whether or not I should be doing this. All right. On Wednesdays, we have been reading from these two works, and we are about 2/3 of the way completed on both of them. We have been looking at boundaries, setting boundaries in our relationships, maintaining and our boundaries with ourselves and others. So this is setting personal boundaries, reclaiming yourself by finding peace, by setting your boundaries, and then drama free. This is dealing with managing unhealthy family relationships and dynamics. So both of these have been what we've been focused in on Wednesdays. We have not decided where we're going after these two books yet. I have an idea, but I'm gonna get you all's opinion who's been reading along with us on Wednesdays. But this is what will be at the top of season 17 because we do have a third of these books to go. All right. On Thursday, we just started maybe 2-3 weeks ago. We started reading from Jamar Tisby's book, The Spirit of Justice. True Stories of Faith, Race, and Resistance. So if you're going to join us on Thursdays, this is what we'll be reading from. And Reparations, a Christian Call for Repentance and Repair. Oftentimes we hear about the case for reparations, but we have not been looking at it from a Christian framework. So I want to see what the Christians are out here saying about repair and reparations. So that's on Thursday. And again, we're going to add in that the book on the Conjure Women on Thursdays as well. And then Friday, we end the week talking about finance and health. So if you're with us on Fridays, you know that we have been reading from Moving Beyond Broke, which is lessons in personal finance and the perseverance you need to manage your personal finance and move forward. And then Live Nourished Making Peace with Food, Banishing Body Shame, and Reclaiming Joy. I'd like to point out that all of these books are nonfiction, and they're all books that are centered around people who are experienced and experts, certified, degreed in their fields. Why is that important to me? Because we have a lot of information going out from people who are not qualified to talk about it. They're not experienced in it. And a part of this literacy and a part of reading aloud is making sure that we are giving you sources of information that know what they're talking about. All right. So it's not just me talking off the top of my head. It is, we want to make sure that we're providing you reading that is researched and data and source backed. Okay. Almost every one of these books that I have shown you has some kind of lexicon in the background. They have additional resources, they have additional book sources in the back, so that if you want to study any particular topic deeper, they also have some resources to refer you to in the back. All right. Over this past weekend on Saturday, I had the privilege of attending the Maryland lynching, the annual Lynching in Maryland conference. For those of you who may have known me or know me for quite some time, you know that I have done work in the past around lynching memorials, going out to community meetings. This was when we were primarily over and serving Virginia. We did a lot of work over there when it came to lynching memorials and bringing to light people who have been victims in the past concerning lynchings. Um, and the way that it came about, I do have some videos online here talking about the way that it came about. We do have some videos on our YouTube page showing us at one of the lynching spots where we did a memorial service and we prayed for the victims. We remembered their families. And then shortly after that, a community gathering was held where we were able to meet the descendants of those who had been lynched. So for me, attending Saturday's conference was sort of a continuation of the work that we had been doing in Virginia. And it was really, really powerful. Um, they honored and recognized 38 persons who had been lynched in Maryland from 1854 to 1933. And this was through research, this was through findings, this was through descendants of those people um, who began to share their family history, their family story. They were able for some to find documentations, articles that had been presented. All right. And so with that, those were the known, okay, those were the known victims. Obviously, they said that they are going to probably find more. But during this conference, we heard from several speakers that began to talk about different ways that they were either researching or different ways that we could begin to allow people to heal from the memories, different ways that we could allow repair to happen. And some of these speakers, I want to go to my notes here. Some of the speakers were Dr. Stacy Patton. Her presentation was called The Smallest Nooses. And she talks about how W.E.B. Du Bois said that how a civilization treats its children reveals its moral DNA. And so her presentation talked about how she had uncovered the children who had been lynched. And in her research, finding out so much about the cases surrounding it. She pointed to how the media in some cases had been complicit in what happened. Um, And so that was a very, very powerful presentation. She looked at children who had been lynched from 1861 to 1959. And she had some of the names that she went over with us, which was powerful. And then she talked about how the violence that began to happen in the United States when it comes to lynching, she talked about how that violence could be linked all the way back to Europe. And I wanted to point out some of the things that she said. She said that lynching in America was not a deviation from what people had been doing in Europe, but she said it was a design, that it was an imperial inheritance because in Europe they had been treating their own children as property, they had been treating tenderness as weakness, and that there was a culture of anti-child violence, that it became this idea of abuse became like a family heirloom polished in public. And so she was a very, very powerful, powerful presentation. Moving on from her, we got a chance to hear from Carol Boston Weatherford and Jeffrey Boston Weatherford, who are a mother and son writing and illustration team. If you have seen these books, Ken is one of their books. This one is actually a combination of poems and art about their own family tree and how they came to find out the history from their family tree. This is one of their works as well, entitled You Can Fly, the Tuskegee Airmen. And it's again poetry, writing, and illustrations about the Tuskegee Airmen. And they began to talk about the process of documenting and the importance of documenting your family history, the importance of starting at a young age with children and telling them about their history. Someone had a very good question and they asked, how young is too young to share the kind of information that we were learning at the conference when it came to racial violence, when it came to abuse, when it came to racism or prejudice? And she said that, and it was a very good point. She said that you can never start too young because now we have books, we have illustrations where you can begin to start teaching your children the history. And the visualizations in children's illustrated books are very helpful in getting the point across, which is so true. Um, she talked about the process for publishing, and she talked about how with children's books and teaching your children young, you want to create a counterbalance to the narratives that are already out here. And I thought that was very powerful. Her son, Jeffrey Weatherford, said that through his art, he is creating a counterbalance to narratives. And she also talked about how with her books, she's doing something called critical fabulation. In other words, once they have the story of what happened, they can use some creative license to tell the story in a way that children can receive it at their level and at their understanding. After that, there was a panel. It was called The Legacy of Family Trauma. One young lady, Asaya Kurtz, shared through a short documentary, about her family member who had been lynched and the difficulty it had been to not have that family member receive justice. On the other end, we heard from Juliet Henley, who is now in the process of doing a documentary on her great great grandfather participating in a lynch mob. And she talked about how she felt when she got a phone call about her family member having been identified as one of the lynchers of a gentleman by the name of Howard Cooper, who had been lynched in 1885. She found out that her ancestor, Milton Offutt, had been a part of the lynching mob. And through that, she is now going through the process of talking with her family members, documenting the conversations, talking about what kind of repair can be offered. And as she said, 137 years later, that history is now with her. It's now her responsibility to carry and figure out, what am I going to do with what I know now? Um, so yeah, she said that people were sort of questioning her and questioning the validity and the necessity of what she was doing. But she knows that it is now her responsibility, because once you know it, you can't unknow it, right? Excuse me. And after that, we had a time of reflection and meditation that far into the conference. We were probably about halfway, where they allowed us to have a time to breathe, have a time to process the information that we were hearing. Um, so yeah, that was that. After lunch, after lunch, we got a chance to hear from Judge Margaret Burnham, who is she was the Los Angeles Times Book Prize winner of this work, By Hands Now Known, Jim Crow's Legal Executioners. This is her narrative that challenges our understanding of the Jim Crow era through a series of cases from 1920 to 1960, compiled from a new massive database that she and her team have put together. From rendition, the process by which states make claims for the returns of their citizens, to battles over jurisdiction and the outsized role of local sheriffs in enforcing racial hierarchy, Judge Burnham traced the line from slavery to the legal structures of Jim Crow into today. All right. So this is a history of state sanctioned and racial violence in the United States. And she goes from not just talking about the lynchings, but also how the police have also played a part into this. Very, very powerful work and very moving work by Judge Margaret Burnham. All right. And then after we heard from the judge, um, we heard from the lynching, the researchers, and the commission on the findings, what they were recommending to be done. Now that they have this information, now that they have um, the data points, they wanted to look at what could they do to bring forth some recovery to people. And I want to go to those notes. Let me make sure that I have that here. I did quite a bit of writing. Let's see. So there were several areas that they looked at in terms of how repair could be made. They looked at what kind of community repair could be made. They looked at what kind of reparations could be made, whether that's material, physical, educational, etc. They looked at what kind of reforms they could recommend to the state as a result of their findings. And they said that the report for that is going to be released, I think she said November 1st, to the commission and to the board. And then there will be another release date and a press release time to the rest of Maryland. But some other books that were offered at the conference, this is by one of the commissioners. It's entitled Black Was the Ink. It is a award honor book. Black Was the Ink. It's sort of a time traveling story where this young boy goes back in time and he meets historical figures like Haram Revels, Robert Smalls. Um, and so, if you're looking for something for young people to get them reading and involved in history, you might want to check this out. It's a Back to the Future or Back to the Past fiction book. These people were not at the conference, but if you are looking for more books on the historical pieces concerning lynching, this is specifically one about the lynching of Matthew Williams and the politics of racism in the Free State. This is about a case that happened in Salisbury, Maryland. Okay. And if you are going west, this one is entitled Lynching and Leisure: Race and the Transformation of Mob Violence in Texas. So this is a book that's solely focused on mob violence in Texas. All right. Terry Ann Scott. And I'm still thinking about the conference, reflecting on all of the information that we received, still going back, reading my notes, thinking about how I'm going to write about these things and summarize all of the data and the information that I took in. One of the presenters talked about Dr. Kalima Young. She's a professor at Towson University here in Maryland. She talked about soil, place, and memory. And she talked about how the soil holds memory and the importance of memory, the importance of place and space, the importance of creating places of memory and memorial, and also the fact that as we are in real time, seeing things being erased, seeing things being painted over, seeing things being taken down and put in the proverbial closet, that we ourselves are also the soil, that our DNA is, you know, as far as our epigenetics, is the memory of things that are also passed down within us. And she made the point, which I have made here before, of saying that yes, there are traumatic things that are passed down through our genetic memory, through our DNA, but there are also triumphant things that are passed down through us and through our DNA. If you're getting trauma passed down, don't think for a second that you're not also getting resilience passed down, overcoming passed down. So we tend to focus on the bad things that have gotten passed down. We tend to focus on that. But the other part of that reality is there were at least, okay, because I looked this up, there were at least, by estimation, at least 1,000 of your ancestors that had to survive, whatever they survived, to get to you today. I know you guys were like, well, where's the motivation coming from this morning? Right there. There were at least 1,000 of your ancestors down through the ages, down through the centuries, that survived something in order for your genetic line, your procreative line, to get to the point to bring you into the earth at this place, at this space, and at this time. So when Maya Angelou said to Oprah Winfrey one time, to understand that you are never alone, you never go into a space alone, that you may stand there as one, but you're really standing there as 10,000, because it's not just you that you're taking into any space at any given time. You're taking you and all of the people who came before you are standing along with you in spirit, are going into those spaces and places with you. And so when I go with those who have come before me, those who have come before me live in me through my genetics. They live in me through the power of the Spirit. They're ever living if you believe in eternal life, if you believe and know that energy is neither created nor destroyed. So where does it go? It's still with us. And so I believe that wherever I go, I take the power, I take the protection, I take the honor, I take the strength, I take the fortitude, I take the resilience, I take the wisdom of my ancestors with me into that space. Not just the trauma, but also the triumph. They are who fortifies me, and my creator. That's what fortifies me. Um, and so, yeah, that was a little bit of what we learned and what was shared at the conference. As I said, I'm going to try to summarize some of the points made, some of my thoughts on the event overall, and I'm going to try to post that either to my Black Table Talk page or my Substack. I'm having some trouble getting back into my Substack, which is why I have not posted another writing there. But I want to make sure that I have this writing somewhere other than Facebook, who tends to delete things, and you go back and you're wondering, what happened to my stuff? Where's my stuff? And Facebook has deleted it. All right. So I hope I have said something today that was helpful, that was encouraging. I do not see, Pastor Ben, are you here? I don't see any comments from you. So if you are here, drop a comment for me so that I can know you are here. Let's see. Do. Give it another minute. All right. I do not see him on, so I am going to end for today. I want to thank you all for your time and your attention. Thank you for allowing me to talk about this conference. And if you are just coming in, you'll have to catch the replay. But I shared with you all of the books that we have been reading for season 16 and the books that we're going to continue to read into season 17. Remember, we are taking the rest of this week off, and then we will return on the first Monday in November with season 17. Again, I want to thank you for your time and attention. Remember, light is the most daring opposition to darkness. So continue to go out and be light. Take care, everyone. Be well. And remember, have a triumphant day and week. And make sure you lean into your triumphant self. Be well and be light.